All right, let's dive into an idea that might sound, well, completely backwards at first. We're going to explore why the leaders we so desperately need might not be the ones with the perfect resumes, but the ones with the most scars. It turns out, true hardship might just be the most valuable leadership training on the planet. Wow, that's a pretty intense statement, right? But look, let's be super clear here. This isn't about being dramatic. It's about a very specific kind of danger. It's the danger of having power without having wisdom. I mean, think about it. Would you really trust a pilot who's only ever flown in clear, sunny skies? Of course not. That's the kind of danger we're talking about here. You know, just think about the stories we're constantly fed, especially on social media. Our culture has built this whole mythology around the golden path to success. We celebrate these flawless, straight-line victories, and we treat struggle like it's some kind of bug in the system, a flaw to be erased, instead of what it really is, a fundamental part of being human. So what happens is, this worship of easy success creates a huge and often totally invisible problem for anyone in a leadership role. The source material for this explainer calls it the empathy deficit. So let's really dig into how this deficit can completely blind the very people who are supposed to be guiding us. Here's the core idea, and it's a simple one. Suffering is just about the fastest way to learn empathy. It's that simple. When a leader has never had to worry about getting evicted or has never had to rebuild their life from scratch, they just don't have the mental reference points to truly understand what most people go through. And that creates this massive gap, an empathy deficit, between them and everyone they're supposed to be leading. And you can see exactly how this plays out in the real world. A leader who's been insulated from hardship might look at poverty and think, well, why don't they just budget better? They might see someone having a mental health crisis and say, have you tried meditating? They see these huge systemic problems and mistake them for simple, personal failings because they've just never, ever had to face them. And this isn't just unhelpful, it can be genuinely harmful. This quote just nails it. When someone in a position of power tells a person in a real crisis to just think positive, it can feel like a kind of psychological violence. It's so completely out of touch with reality that it becomes insulting. And let's be real, this is not just some abstract theory. This is happening all around us. You've got the venture capitalist who just keeps funding people who look and think exactly like them. You've got the politician writing labor laws who has never worked a minimum wage job in their life. You've got the executive ordering mass layoffs who has no real concept of the human devastation it causes. And you've got the tech founder building products for their tiny, privileged bubble, thinking it represents the whole world. Okay, so if that's the problem, where on earth do we find the solution? Well, the argument is that the answer lies with the very people our culture tends to ignore. So this next part is all about what we could call the privilege of hardship, and the three unique advantages, three superpowers really, that can only be forged in the fire of a genuine struggle. And at the heart of all these advantages is this one core idea: radical resilience. This isn't just about bouncing back from a setback. No, this is the truest, most authentic form of power there is. It's the kind you can't buy, you can't inherit. It has to be earned through the brutal, messy, unglamorous work of just surviving when survival is not a guarantee. So what does this resilience actually give you? Well, it boils down to three critical superpowers for leaders who've been through it. First, they have a deep, intuitive understanding of systems. Second, they have a type of confidence that can't be faked. And third, they just flat out make better, more humane decisions. Let's break down each one. First up, they get how systems work on a gut level. See, when you've been personally trapped by bureaucracy or hurt by some thoughtless institutional policy, you don't just see the problem on the surface, you see the flawed design underneath it all. And that lets you fix the root cause, not just the symptom. It's how you build better policies, better products, and better companies for everyone. The second advantage is confidence, and this slide shows the two types perfectly. On one side, you have this brittle, fragile confidence of the untested leader. It's defensive, it always needs validation, and it creates these cultures of fear. But on the other side, you have the tempered steel confidence of someone who has lost it all and built it back up. It's quiet, it's an unshakable certainty, and it creates psychological safety for every single person around them. And finally, they just make better decisions. Now, this doesn't mean they never take risks. It means they are risk intelligent. Because they have personally felt the real human consequences of failure, they understand the stakes. They don't just gamble with people's jobs and livelihoods, because they know on a visceral level what it actually feels like to be that difficult business decision.
So all of this, it brings us to a place where we have to completely reframe a very, very loaded word, privilege. This is where we see how turning struggle into strength means we have to completely flip the script on our idea of what real privilege even is.
This is so important because the myth that success is only about hard work is so incredibly dangerous. This quote just gets right to the heart of it. By believing that, the people who've had it easy can just dismiss the struggles of others, and they end up mistaking their own good fortune for being somehow morally better. A leader who has actually struggled knows better. They know luck is a huge part of the equation. And this right here, this is the big idea we've been building towards. The old model says that privilege means never having to experience hardship. The new model says the true privilege is having survived hardship and gained the wisdom that comes from it. Real power isn't about avoiding the fight, it's about having the resilience to get back up again and again and rebuild. So, let's bring this all home. What does this actually mean for you, especially if your own life hasn't exactly been a straight, easy line? The message is really, really clear. Your scars are not liabilities. They are your credentials. I want you to really let that sink in for a second. Your history of struggle, the things you might have been taught to hide or feel ashamed of, that is actually your most essential, your most unique competitive advantage. It has given you a perspective and a kind of strength that you just cannot learn in a business school. Think about it. Every single time you survived something that should have broken you, you are basically earning a PhD in human resilience. Every scar is a data point. Your suffering was never, ever a sign of your failure. It was your education. It was the curriculum that is shaping you into the kind of leader the world actually needs right now. And so we end here with this question, a question that's really directed at you. Because the point isn't just that you've struggled. The point is what you choose to do with the wisdom that only that suffering could teach you. Now that you've survived, what will you build? Who will you serve? Because that, right there, is the true test of leadership.